All right. Good morning, everyone. Happy New Year. It is January 2nd, 2023. Unbelievable. And welcome to the Write My Book seminar. This is our third edition of doing it. There are a lot of folks that want to write a book. And how do you do it? How do you get started? How do you get rolling with it? And we're going to address all those questions today and hopefully get you started. There's a lot of friends and family here. People that are looking to better themselves and looking to grow and accomplish something. So I thank you for joining. I am Andrew Murata, host of the program here today. And let's get started. We're going to be about an hour and a half, and I'm going to share my screen. We're going to do some sharing in the chat and audio as well. And then we'll bring our guest in for today, Dr. Larry Dake from Binghamton, New York. But without further ado, let's get started. I will share. My assistant is on here, Christine Maraglia. She's amazing. If you need anything during the session, get to the chat, get to her, and she will take care of it. And I will also share the presentation. Christine, if you want to put it in the chat, I'll give it to you now. Yeah, you already have it, Christine. It's the Write My Book workshop. I'll do it again. So you have it, and Christine will put the slideshow in the chat. Christine, do view only so people don't jack my slides up, please. And here we go. Again, we're going to be about an hour and a half today. I am going to stay on the link afterwards for anybody who's looking for overtime or looking to stay on a little bit and just discuss their project and more about them. And I look at that screen and I say to myself, how the heck did that happen, right? I can't believe that those things are in front of me. And I want to share that. I want to share some of the things I've learned along the way. My mentor and good friend, Dr. Rob, is on here, right? And he talks about sharing your gifts and talents with others. And that's what we're going to do today. I learned a couple of things along this journey. And here's our agenda. Here's where we're looking to go. We're just going to talk about some tips, tricks, and hacks in the first part of it. About halfway through, we'll meet Dr. Larry. Dr. Larry is assistant superintendent in Binghamton, and he's written 3 books now. And I know he's turning the page on his 4th, and just different styles, meeting people. And then afterwards, the second half, we'll talk about self-publishing versus going with a publisher and all that that's involved with that. Again, here's some of the things we're looking today. This is about you and your style. You can't write like Dr. Rob Gilbert. You can't write like Kevin Estes. You can't write like Christine Maraglia. You have to write like yourself and in your own way and in your own style. And it took me a little while to figure that out as well. But this is about you, and that's why it's called Write My Book. This is your project and your thing here. I'm on Twitter a lot. You can anything we do today, you can take pictures, you could write on there. But sharing on Twitter is helping other people. So I'd love for you to connect with me on Twitter, and we can connect that way. All right, I'm going to ask 3 questions here. And the first one, we could go in the chat. I'll stop sharing now. The first one is, who are you? Where are you from? And what is your role? There's a lot of coaches here. There's professors. There's different people from different walks of life. There's some financial investors on here. So I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. So the first question is, who are you? Where are you from? And what's your job? What's your role? I'm going to stop sharing, stop presenting, and let's go to the chat. Good morning, Gene. Michelle, good morning. A lot of New Yorkers on here. Ryan, good morning. Good morning. Ryan, I'm speaking at the athletic director conference in New York in Saratoga, so let's connect. All right. The second question is, where are you on your journey? right? 1 to 3, right? We're going to go on a scale of 1 to 10. 10 is you're already done. You got the book. You're writing your next book. You know what you're doing. 10 is you're an expert. 1 to 3, you're kind of just getting started. That's like a super beginner. 4 to 6, you're in the middle, right? You have it. You have the framework. You've been talking to some publishers. 7 through 10 is you're on your journey. You're well over there. So give us the range of where you are in your journey. Ooh, retired podiatrist, Jay. I want to talk about my feet. We got Terry Wartzberger on here. Terry, talk about your feet to Jay. Yeah, Terry's at 10. She got the book out. All right, Dr. Rob, you're more than a 5. Knock it off. Hi, Joyce. I love the name there, Joyce Voice. Bobby Calabrese. Hey, how you doing? All right, 1 to 10 was question 2. Where are you on your journey there? And then number 3, what's a question you have? We're gonna answer a lot of questions today, but what's a question that you have that you want answered? We're gonna stop and do some audio questioning back and forth. But coming into this, what's a question you have? I read your Google Forms, but what's a question that you have? That's our 3 questions to get started. All right, I would say the average here, Christine, looking at these numbers, what would you say the average is? 3.2?
I'd agree.
Yeah, good. Well, we're in the right spot then. We're in the right spot. Where do I start? Editing. So our 3rd question is, what's a question that you have? What is something that you want to touch on today? What's next? That's right. I have so many questions. Yeah. Lots of questions. Yeah. And we're going to answer them now. How do you promote and market a book so it lives beyond you? That's a great question, Dana. Mark that one, Christine. We might start there. All right. Yeah. How have you used your books to speeches to talk around the country? Good question, Doc. All right. Well, we will address those questions. Keep putting them in there. As I'm presenting, Christine will manage that. And Christine, if you think it's pertinent to ask it right there, certainly unmute during the session and jump
you got
in.
it.
All right. Slideshow. Here we go. Sorry, things running a little slow. I guess there's a lot of people on here, which is a good thing. See who's streaming in my house, maybe slowing up the internet. Here we go. Christine, I wonder with the everyone on the link here, maybe that's slowing it down. Well, let's start with a story. My good friend, as I said, is on here, Dr. Rob Gilbert. I've been calling Success Hotline since 2014, 2015 in there. And Dr. Rob, when we first connected, invited me to come talk to his class. Like many of the Success Hotline callers, he invited me to his class. I go down there, and Dr. Rob and I hit it off. He enjoyed my presentation. I loved his class. I loved presenting. And at the end of it, he handed me 10 books, 10. And 2 of them were his. And he said, Andrew, you got to write a book. You were incredible. I said, Doc, I can't write a book. I don't know how to write a book. I'm busy. I'm an assistant principal. I'm a principal. I'm a referee. I can't do it. He says, you got to do it, Andrew. You were incredible. I said, I don't know how. He said, you don't have to know how. He said, just write down the things you're doing as a principal. You're a great leader. Just write down the things you're doing. You got to worry about the book. I got ADD. It's a superpower, not a disability. And Dr. Rob got my attention. I didn't text to drive, but I did talk to text on the way home. 60 things on the way home from Montclair, New Jersey. The next day, I always have something to write with. I always got my book. I always got my pad. And the next day at school, I had 40 more. And in less than 24 hours, I had 100 of the 125 tips in this book. And it was the power of a single experience. It was Dr. Rob making me believe that I could do it. And I want to do that for you today, that you can do it. There's the number. If you're not calling the Success Hotline right now, you better start today. Dr. Rob is changing lives each and every day, and he changed my life. And now I'm on this journey that I didn't know I could believe, right? He was like a Jedi. He said, Andrew, you can write this book. And he made me believe. So whether it's the force, whether it's motivation, whether it was one of his psychology tricks, he made me believe that I could do it. And then it's the starting of it, right? It's just doing it. So Dr. Rob is a Jedi, and he says this, it's the start, right? So if there was ones and twos in there, you just have to start. I want you to think about if we were on an island and we had to get to another island across the way, and it was 1,000 yards away, and we had to build a raft. Are you the person who is just going to build the raft and build and build and build and build and build and tweak it and change it and tweak it and change it and seal it and this and that and never push off the dock? Or are you going to build it to where it's good enough, and then you're going to start your journey? If you want to write a book, you just have to start. Christine's going to put this in the chat. This is a great TED Talk, guys, and it's about choice, happiness, and spaghetti sauce. Malcolm Gladwell is the name of it. It's a highly watched thing, and I'm going to, in there, he says, right, it's a story about Howard Moskowitz, not Mark Moskowitz, who's on there, but Howard Moskowitz, who was looking for the best spaghetti sauce. And they did all this research about the best spaghetti sauce. And what they found was there's variety. There's variety in it. And there's variety in your writing. So I use this as a prop here, right? There is no magic sauce. I'm not going to give you one thing today. But I might give you something that gets you started, right? There's just, I could rub this all day long. It's not going to write a book, right? I want you to watch that TED Talk, and I want you to hear about that there's not one magic spaghetti sauce. There's not one magic type of coffee. People like all kinds of types of coffees, and there's all kinds of different styles. Now, if you're a hotline caller, who can unmute and answer that last bullet for me, right? Who can answer that? Dr. Rob, you're not allowed to answer. I know you know the answer. Who's answering that last one? And no takers? Come on, Jove. You call the hotline. What's the last one, Jove? It's starting, guys. It's starting. Just doing it. You got to get going and just doing it. Where are you? Where do you want to get to? How are you going to get to from where you are to where you're going to get to? And then just doing it. You got to get out and start doing it. So you took the first step today about jumping on this seminar here, and we're hopefully going to get you started. I interviewed my brother on my podcast. Here's a selfish plug. I run a podcast weekly, live on Facebook. Friend me on Facebook. It's called Education, Leadership, and Beyond. And I interviewed my brother, who's a chemist at Estee Lauder, Dana, in Long Island. And I said, Paul, how do you formulate the mascara? He makes women's mascara. And I said, how do you formulate it? And he said, we use the TRI method. And he's a chemist. So I thought he was going to talk about triglycerine and triethylamine and all that chemical stuff. And here's Estee Lauder, a worldwide company. He said, we try this and we try that until we get something that works. So I urge you today for the TRI method. I'm going to give you some tips here. And here's one of them. I read Teach Like a Pirate by Dave Burgess. In that book, he talked about opening your RAS. Dr. Rob's a sports psychologist, studies the brain, right? That is your brain's filter. I want you to open your RAS to all things writing. The Marauders took a trip on an RV trip out west, 3 summers in a row. It was incredible. If you have little kids, Christine, I know you got the little ones, plan on doing it at some point. We drove midway. We drove, Jove, to Missouri, and then we got the RV there and took off from there. But I had never seen an RV. I grew up in Staten Island. It was too tight. We didn't have them. I never saw them. And when I drove around, I just didn't see them. I wasn't looking for RVs. As soon as I drove in one, as soon as I took a trip, I started seeing RVs everywhere, different styles, different shapes, different lengths. Which was a tow one? Which one was the one with the big wheel? Which was the flat front? Which one looked like one of those Ford vans? I started seeing RVs all over the place because I opened my eyes to them. So I urge you this morning to open your eyes to the writing process, to all things books. Anytime you have a book in your hand, what's the title look like? What does it feel? What are some cool things about the book? What are the testimonials on the back? All of those kinds of things. All right. Here's another tip. Write it down. Write stuff down. I'm a tech guy, right? I always have my laptop and my phone, but I keep a little pad with me all times. When I'm at school, I always have my pad. But here's my little black book, right? There's some cash I keep. And I always have something down here. I'm always writing notes. I use Siri a lot as a reminder, right? I have about 100 reminders in here. But when I'm going to talk about scheduling times, when I want to write, I have blogs. I have different book ideas, different things I want to do, but I got to wait until I have the time. Dr. Rob is always saying, Andrew, he's the busiest school leader in the country. I'm busy like many of you. I'm intentional about my time. So do some of these things. Always have something to write with. ABC, we have some business people on here. Always be closing. Always be writing. ABW, always be writing. Terry talked about editing. Terry's a ultra marathon runner. She's a doctor. She's done some great things. She asked about editing. You ain't got to worry about editing at this point, right? That's not the focus. The focus is the content, writing things down, getting ideas. And then the if. Well, what if I make a mistake? What if it's no good? What if it's not really good? What if people don't like it? So what? It doesn't matter at this point. It doesn't matter. You're just writing down ideas. You're just writing down thoughts. Guys, I mentioned about ADD. I can't do well in a big public spot. I can't. I'm in my home office now. I got the door closed. I don't do well with distractions. I put earplugs in. I make quiet time, right? And for many of us, when is that quiet time? It's in the morning. There's a lot in the morning. And that's when I do my best work. But you gotta make time for the quiet. I should change that to not find the quiet, is make the quiet. You gotta intentional. One of the things I do, guys, I live in a small town, but there is a hotel, and my kids are at an event, or I'm going here, or their plays at 7, and I'm at work till 5, and I have a little window. I go sit in the lobby, way in the back. There's tables. I go sit in there, I put my earplugs in. And now I have an hour and a half of quiet time, uninterrupted. My back is facing the foyer, so I'm not seeing anybody coming in. You got to make time for the quiet. You got to write. Dr. Rob talks about baseball a lot and some of the stars. His name's escaping me from the Red Sox, right? Just the amount of times they swing the bat, the hitters. Well, you write blogs, you write stories, you write experiences. Christine, if you could go to my website and people could sign up for my blog there, if you could put that link in there to sign up for the blog. But here's an offer. I'd love for you to guest write a blog. Many of you have ideas. Many of you have stories. Many of you are coaches. Many of you have different things ready. Well, send me an excerpt, send me something, and I'll publish it in the blog. But write things down, okay? Write stuff down. I love Forrest Gump, right? It doesn't have to be one type. Think about that line from Forrest Gump where he's on talking about the shrimp with his partner there, right? All the different kinds of shrimp there are out there. Well, there's all kinds of writing out there. There's not one for everybody. I mentioned ADD again. It's a superpower, not a disability. But I got to move. I set a timer when I write for about 10 to 15 minutes. I don't want interruptions, but about 10, 15 minutes, I get up. I'll do 15, 20 jumping jacks. I'll do some push-ups, sit-ups, whatever it is, just to get moving, to get that energy flowing. I use a lot of talk to text. So if I'm writing somewhere for a long amount of time, I might go walk a mile, right? How long does it take to walk a mile? About 15, 20 minutes when you're moving. And I'll do talk to text prompts of the things I want to write about, ideas. And when that oxygen is flowing, you're getting creativity, right? It's creating energy in your mind and in your heart. What's your style, right? I just mentioned about the walk and talk. I do a lot of walking and talking voice memos, and then I go back and clean them up. Do you want to be early in the morning with a cup of coffee? Are you a night owl where you're 9 o'clock at night, you're winding down, you have a glass of wine, things like that? You got to find your style. Larry Dake is on here. He's going to be our guest. He's got 3 little kids. He's an assistant superintendent. We talked about the morning and managing our mornings together, not together, but sharing best practices about our mornings. So I'm going to pause here for a moment and another question. What's your style? And if you don't have one yet, that's fine. But what is your style, and how do you best write? So there's my question right now. Jump in the chat. And yeah, Dana, I see. I want you to be a guest writer. So let me know, Dana. All right. So the question right now in the chat, what is your style? Are you in a coffee shop? Were you busy? You like to be in there and it's busy. What is your best way and what is your best style when you write? Yeah, Michael, you don't have one yet, and you find it. You find it by doing it. Yeah, Dana is putting out all the distractions, alone and quiet. Yeah, Terry's a walker. She's putting them down. Okay, early morning. In a busy airport, right, Michelle? Good. Post-workout. Chase, talk to us about the post-workout. Why does that work for you, Chase? Unmute and share that.
I think for me, it just works the best because while I'm working out and while the blood's flowing and oxygen's coming in, I get all of those thoughts. So most of the time I type them in my notes on my phone or something like that, or maybe even just write them down in a notepad with like right next to my workout. Then when I come back, I write them down into Word or Google Docs or whatever that I'm typing on.
Yeah. You've heard so many success stories about business deals or things being done on a napkin there, right? Mark, you're a night owl. Talk to us about writing at night. How does that work for you?
Well, sometimes what I'll do, like so similar to you, Andrew, I got a notepad that I like to keep stuff in, and then I'll sit down at night and just kind of organize those ideas into more congruent thoughts and let the day progress. But sometimes you never know when inspiration will hit, and you just start clapping away at the keyboard.
You just don't know when inspiration's going to hit, right? And you got to be ready. Guys, we're always looking for 2 things. I just bought this. I haven't tried it yet. It's called the Finisher's Journal. And my mom, besides Dr. Rob, is one of my biggest fans. And she bought me, I don't even know where it went, a creativity journal. Just about, channeling those ideas and keeping those ideas. Here they are. Right? Dr. Rob talks a lot about doing it each and every day. I'm going to try these. I'm going to see if they work for me. Dr. Rob, I do my best writing when I'm speaking and teaching. I record my classes and then transcribe them. He goes back and reviews what he had talked about and what the kids had shared in class. So you got to find your style, everybody. And again, right, I use this here about there's no one magic way. There's no one magic style. When we're done today, I want you to watch that TED Talk about choice, happiness, and spaghetti sauce. Malcolm Gladwell shares there's not one magic spaghetti sauce. All right, hopefully this thing will load again. I'm not moving so fast today. We're going to have Larry join us in just a minute. We're almost halfway home. So find your style and how does it work for you? Okay. Where, again, I don't do well in a coffee shop. I'll buy everything up on the counter and eat it. I do go to Panera Bread a lot. I do very well in hotels. I get up early. I'm locked in there. When I'm in my house, I don't know about you, but I see the laundry that needs to be folded, the grass that needs to be cut, my kids there, stuff needs to be put away. I'm getting called to the kitchen to go eat, to go do the dishes, whatever it is. My wife and I found a beautiful spot not far from where Christine is. It's Kerhonkson, New York. I found an Airbnb. It was $90. It was a studio basement apartment. I became friends with the women that lived there. They were a married couple, and I actually put them in the dedication to this book because I go there and write. I go there on writing retreats. I'll leave Friday after work. My wife and I'll book Friday and Saturday. I'll go by myself Friday after work. I'll write Friday night. I'll write all night. I have prompts, just like people just shared. I have prompts ready to go, ideas, things ready to go. And then when I get there, I'm ready to write. I'll go to bed early. Saturday morning, I wake up 4:30, 5 a.m. Bam, I am writing from 5 a.m. till noon, 1 o'clock, doing push-ups, going for walks, going for runs, and writing uninterrupted. I had shared earlier about light writing and deep writing or heavy writing. I'm into the process at that point. My fingers are banging away at the keyboard, uninterrupted. I'm also in the zone. I'm in an area where I'm used to writing. My wife and I talk about, we love the tick of the clock in Kerhonkson. She'll come at 3 o'clock or so. We'll go for an afternoon bite. We'll get something to eat, maybe have dinner together, go for a walk, and then I leave. And I let my wife stay in Kerhonkson where she could have some time away. So I'm finding that family balance of Dad's not away for the whole weekend, but I was away and I'm writing. And that works for us. So a small Airbnb or a hotel room is worth $100 investment. You could get a hotel room, ask to check in early. You're getting in there 9, 10 in the morning, and maybe you can get a late checkout, and you're almost getting 24 hours of 2 mornings of writing. It's worth $100. Dr. Rob is always talking about asking other people, and that's why you're on here today. But Success Leaves Clues, asking other people who have done it. Todd Whitaker is a mentor of mine. Todd has written 50 books from Missouri, and I've spoken to Todd a few times about book writing. Fear. Not thinking you're good enough, not believing that your stuff is good enough. Watch the Brené Brown special on Netflix. It's 45 minutes. She says in there, I'm not interested in people bashing me on social media, right? Unless you're in the arena getting your ass kicked, I don't want to hear from you. You're on here. You're ready to put yourself out there. You listen to all the little chatter. This. I had errors in my books, right? I had errors. I had teachers and people in my school around whatever, kind of teasing. Oh my God, he's got errors in his book. So what? We fixed them. We changed them, right? I have a book. You can't be afraid. You can't be afraid. This is your goal. This is your book. I love the 5 SWs. Again, learn from Dr. Rob. Right, Christine, you could put them in the chat. If you see me present, you know them. Sometimes it will, sometimes you won't. It won't. So what? Someone's waiting. Stick with it. You gotta stick with it. You have a mistake in your book. So what? You fix it. You move on. We just published this. Larry Dake and I and a couple of other leaders. This just came out last month. I found an error. I found a mistake. And Terry, you asked about editing. We'll get to that. We're going to get it corrected. With Amazon, you're able to get the book corrected. They charge you, but you're able to get it corrected. I'm a visual learner. I like to see images, right? I'm a big fan of the blank canvas, writing up words, writing up things, putting pictures. I'm in my office right now. I have pictures of inspirational things. I have a picture over here I don't want to jack my computer. Well, I don't know if you can see it, but I have a picture of me presenting with several hundred people in the audience. And I find it inspiring. So get a vision board, get a big white Post-it note and put it on the wall. Different things you want to do. You walk by it, you see it. Those things help from me. If you go to that hotel room, cover the walls with ideas. Just put them out there. Put them on paper. Something is going to catch. Something is going to stick. These are things that work for me, guys. Other people use books, journals. I'm visual. I need to see it. Big letters, bold. Maybe I make it bolder if I really like it. Some people start with their title. Mark, I'm going to ask you to speak in a little bit, but Mark Moskowitz is on here. Mark has a title within about his story there. And some people start with the title and then write from there. So a brainstorming activity in a quiet space works for me. Guys, here's a bunch of my logos. I hired a graphic designer to make them. I don't spend time on this other stuff. I have great help like Christine and people that help me to do these. I think actually Christine might have helped with some of these, but I've hired people to do these. Yes, it costs money, but it keeps my focus on the content. It keeps my focus on the writing. And if you look at the AM logo, right, those are my things. Those are my points I want to hit. And I got those from a brainstorming activity like I just shared. This is our latest book, Dads, Leaders, and Father Figures. Again, inspiration there. But it's going to cost you a little bit of money, right? Those things, that's another thing. You could create the image of your book, and then you can go from there. Pictures. My coach from years ago said, I saw he wrote something called Take More Pictures. Who's the athletic director on here? Is it your name's escaping, Bill? Who's the AD? Ryan, is that you?
Yeah, that's me.
Ryan, what do you see in that picture? You're an athletic director. What do you see? I'm the ref, I'll tell you that.
You are the ref. I see a lot of people all watching and just a lot of excitement and energy. The final shot.
It is the final shot. It was the final shot of regulation, Ryan. And that story is in this book. That story is in Tales from the Hardwood. The player, number 23, actually fouled out. We made a mistake in the game. We called the foul on 33. And it was 23. Delaware, the other team, they were like, what's going on? And I don't want to tell the whole story now. But 23 hit the shot to put the game into overtime. He should have been fouled out. And then 23 scored all 7 points for Towson in overtime, and they won the game. And the Delaware coach wound up getting fired at the end of the season. They had a rough season. And I got a letter of reprimand for making a mistake. I was the head ref on the game. I used that story, and the picture is in the book for inspiration, right? And there's the saying, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So take pictures of different occurrences and different things that happen, and the picture could provide inspiration. Here's another tip. Do you make the presentation first, and from the presentation comes a book? Or do you write a book and then do a presentation? You go on and you search call for presenters, whatever your business is. Do you want to go present at a conference? Jove just talked about, he presented at the Missouri conference, principals conference in Missouri. And is it the presentation that creates the ideas from the book, right? How do we learn? A lot of teachers on here, we learn by presenting. So I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. Oh, yeah, maybe I just want to show this. Christine, we could put it in the chat in a little bit. Am I still sharing, or did I? No, I'm still
Yep,
sharing.
you're good.
Yeah, so guys, these are my workshop offerings, right? Look at all of these offerings. And which came first, the book or, here's Tales from the Hardwood. I have a presentation that I did. Yeah, Christine, you have this here, in-person virtual workshops. If you could put that in the chat. So which came first, guys? The presentation or the book. And these are just a variety of my workshops that I have. Here's the partnership. Well, look, here's the book. Which one came first? Some it was the presentation, some it was the book. Dr. Rob, that goes to your question is, well, how do you present around the country in these books? It's a combination of creating the presentation as well as then the book that goes with it. And we'll talk about the marketing and getting it out there. Dana, I think that was your question. So that's another process. This is one of the most important things. I have my kids here, my family. You schedule this. My kids all know I'm presenting this morning. They're not coming in here. They're not bothering me. They know that. It's on my list. I'm accomplishing this workshop today. We put this out there about a month ago. We scheduled it. Larry scheduled the time, and here we are, right? Very important, your schedule about creating time to write and just making it happen. All right, we're going to turn it over to Larry. Another question for you. What resonated with you so far? What stuck out to you? Let's take it to the chat about something that really worked for you. Like, oh my God, I got to do that. Yeah, just start. That's right, Dana. Just start. Finding your style, Tarkan. You can't write like Joyce the Voice. You can't write like Kevin Estes. You can't write like Dana. You got to write like you. What else? What else resonated with you? Roberto, Michael, what resonated with you? Jay, what resonated? I got to learn about the feet, Jay. Yeah, inspiration can come at any time. Jay, is it the presentation or is it the book, right? You go put yourself out there for a conference. It forces you to make the presentation. And can a book come from the presentation? Yeah. Not worrying about what others think. You can't worry about it. You got to make the thing first. Yeah. Good. Good. Okay. I'm going to turn it over to Larry at this point. Larry, let me just show your slide real quick. And then
Sure.
I put some nice pictures of you on here.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Let me share again. And we'll turn it over to our guest speaker. Larry and I have become fast friends. We're in the circle of education together in New York. And our circles have crossed over a number of different things. And now including a book together, right? And Dr. Rob has said on the hotline that it's really just a decision. And I asked Larry about, hey, do you want to do this project together? And it was as simple as a decision. Oh, sorry, guys, it's taking a long time. Maybe I shouldn't have done that, Larry. But this is Dr. Larry Dake from
It's okay.
Binghamton. And Larry, we'll turn it over to you at this time.
Yeah.
There it is. I wanted to show your nice picture, Larry. The one with your eyes open. And
Yeah.
he's an author, and he runs this Sanies chat. It's on Wednesdays. I would urge you to get involved with that. And there's his 2 books. And now we have our third together. Larry, thanks for joining us. I
Yeah,
will
absolutely.
zip it and turn it over to you.
All right, let me go ahead and share my screen as well.
Thanks for joining us, Larry.
Let's see here. Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm more adept at Zoom, so just bear with me for a second, and I think I will be able to do it.
And I'm sorry if we're have a little log here. There you go, Dr. Larry, you're sharing.
All right. Can you see my PowerPoint, Andrew?
Yep, looks great.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Well, I appreciate that. So thanks, everyone. You know, what a great way to start the new year with some learning. And, you know, one of the things that I would say is that's really what this is all about for me. So let me introduce myself a little bit, and some of this will then feed into what my process is and how I kind of approach some of this. So I am currently the assistant superintendent for instruction and budget in the Binghamton City School District. This is my 7th year as an assistant superintendent across 2 districts, and I've been an administrator for 13 years now. Originally was a high school social studies teacher in Vestal. I'm from a tiny little town in Delaware County, Walton. As Andrew said, the kids are older now. I should probably update that picture, but 13, 11, and 8. And I also teach in the Ed Leadership Program at Binghamton University, program that I also earned my doctorate from and my CAS. And I live in Endwell, New York, and that is our claim to fame, I suppose, is that was the little town where the 2016 Little League World Series team came from. That won it over a team from Seoul, South Korea. Population 22 million, and Endwell is population 9,000. So that was pretty cool. And also my wife was the first grade teacher for about half of the kids on the team. So that was pretty cool too. So that's just a little bit about me, but that will inform some of the ways that I've approached this in the past. So, I think the biggest thing is, and a lot of this, I didn't know what Andrew was going to say. A lot of this also fits into there, but I think the biggest thing is, what's your goal? Andrew talked about, conferences, presentations, book writing. He's going to talk about, self-publishing versus going through a publishing house. I've also experienced both of those now. I know for me, the goal is really twofold. I enjoy the process of putting ideas out there and seeing kind of what sticks and what doesn't. And it also, for me, is probably the best form of professional development that I've engaged in, because you really have to evaluate your own leadership when you do some of these things. And, that kind of feeds into the second one of what you get out of the deal. And for me, again, 3 kids, I'm certainly not crisscrossing the country every month looking to do any of that kind of stuff right now. Some limited things here and there, but not on a wholesale scale. For me, it's the continual process of getting better at my job. You get into these positions, as many of you are, and things come up and you have to constantly evaluate how you're doing your job. For example, in the district I work in right now, we have not had a tech person for most of the last year. So I'm filling that role and learning a ton every single day. I've been in my current job now for 2.5 years. For about half of that time, I haven't had a clerical staff member. So I've had to really learn the ins and outs of how all the paper works and all the processes. So you're constantly having to learn in these jobs. And so I think that informs what I got out of the deal. Now, part of that is that I've got a lot of learning to do. And I fully believe that we're all works in progress, regardless of where we are in our career. And one of the stories I like to tell is when my first book came out, it was featured in the SANES magazine, which is the State Administrators Association of New York. And it just happened that issue came out when I was on vacation with my family down in Cape May, New Jersey. And so I'm on the balcony of a hotel room checking work emails, right? And part of what I write about in that book is you shouldn't do that. And a colleague from my area texts me and says, hey, thanks for the reminders. I'm reading the article right now. I love it. And I'm doing the very thing, violating the very thing I wrote about in the book. So none of us have this down by any stretch of the imagination. And for me, having been in several different positions where you have to learn very, very quickly, it's kind of that continual process of trying to get better. And then also, how does it fit into your professional and personal life? Do you have ambitions to put in proposals for multiple conferences that would require travel? Or if you're like me, you have the 3 kids at home, whether I sell 1 million books or 1 book, my lifestyle probably is not changing at all right now. And that's okay. A couple opportunities here and there, wonderful. I'm looking forward to that. But certainly someone like Andrew, who does that on a much broader scale, there's a different fit with what you do. So I think knowing your why is important, and everyone's why is different. My why isn't any better or more valid than yours. So I think knowing what you want to get out of the deal is part of it. I think also defining your process, and there's I'm going to put the link to this in the chat after I stop sharing my screen. But when I became a building principal in Union Endicott in 2013, I came to work for a superintendent that, I knew was going to really challenge me and push me. And I was in the middle of trying to finish my doctoral dissertation, with 2 young kids and all that stuff going on. And I remember she gave me this book, How to Write Your Dissertation in 15 Minutes a Day. And it's one of the 2 or 3 reasons why I finished. I ended up defending my dissertation 6 days before my 3rd child was born. And you have to find when you can do it. And I think this goes to book writing as well. But, I wasn't taking my entire Saturday away from my family to write the dissertation or write the book. I think going back to something Andrew said, there are 2 kinds of books and 2 kinds of dissertations, perfect and completed. And being comfortable with that, I think is certainly something I've had to learn as well. So I will link that book. You can also just Google this and the Amazon page will come up. But one of the books that really helped me through and really sets into this process of what I call hitting singles, to go to a baseball analogy. It's more important to just make a little bit of contact each day on a project versus trying to hit a home run on a Saturday. I'm going to block out 6 hours on my weekend to do this. It sounds really good on Monday, but likely not going to happen when you're Friday night and you're tired from your job and all those things, and you haven't seen your family as much because you had a board meeting that week. So I really think this idea of doing a little bit a lot of the time is far more valuable than trying to hit a home run every single time. In baseball terms, if you grew up in the 80s with baseball like I did, it's better to be Tony Gwynn, 340 average, lots of singles, not a lot of home runs, didn't strike out a lot, versus being a guy like Rob Deere. And there's lots of Rob Deeres in baseball these days that do hit a lot of home runs, low average, strike out a ton. So hitting singles, doing a little bit is really important. I like what Andrew said. I never had thought of this. This is a really great idea. If you've got an hour, 90 minutes in between meetings, or, it's a board meeting that night, going somewhere that's not your office and not your home and just working for a half an hour, writing for 45 minutes. A lot of that is really, really important. And then I think it's important to set timelines too. I know when Andrew and myself and Jeff and Kevin were working on the Dad's book, we're going to all write 10 stories by May 1st. We extended that, I think, a couple of times. Jeff had a baby, not physically. His wife had a baby during the process of writing the book. And we all had lots of things going on. So, setting timelines is important because it, again, does have to get done if you're going to continue with the process. And then again, going back and now that I'm looking at this with these eyes, this really fits into thought number 1 as well. What are your current goals? Where are you in your career? Are you at a place where, you're at the second half of your career and you're, looking at, how could this be a springboard to some interesting work after retirement or in the last couple of years of your career? Or are you still kind of in the climbing the ladder mode? Some of that's going to dictate what you write about, how you approach it. And again, for me, having been in several positions and not ashamed to say that I probably wasn't ready for, if you were just to look at my resume. I was a 6-year high school teacher, did a small stint in a district office position in Vestal, really just data and technology, nothing too decision-making like, and I became an elementary school principal at age 33. And I had teachers who were teaching in their grade level longer than I had been alive. So you got to learn really quickly. Like, I'm not walking into that person's room and saying, here's how you teach 3rd grade, right? Like, I really had to learn. I became an assistant superintendent a couple years after that and really had to learn. And then coming to Binghamton, really had to learn a lot. So for me, it's that continual process of professional growth that I would say is kind of my why, more so than, what's the Amazon ranking of the book or what's this or what's that. Might that change over the next 10 years of my life and career? It might. But I know I still have a long runway to go. So that's probably where I'm going to be for some time. So again, I appreciate a little bit of your time. Andrew did plug the Sainies chat. I will say this fits squarely into the professional growth, personal growth area in finding what works for you. So I had hosted a couple of Twitter chats for other state organizations, just being active on the platform. Was asked to do that. And last summer, I went to Sainies, to Karen Bronson, who's the director of professional learning, and said, hey, this could be, I didn't know what it was going to be, this could be a really nice way to build a community of educators in New York, also outside of New York, And they decided to say, yeah, you can use our hashtag, keep us posted on what you're doing. Obviously, as they have their conferences and things like that, you're kind of promoting that, and you're doing chats on the topics of the conference. But half an hour on a Wednesday night, I literally moderated the last two. One in the hallway of my daughter's middle school, not during her orchestra concert while the chorus was on, and then the other watching her modified basketball game in another school. So, it fits into where I can do things on my phone. I can pre-do all the tweets, like all the tweets with the questions and all of that, like are done on the weekend leading up to it. So they come out, you can schedule them. And then I'm just kind of in the moment enjoying the learning and learning myself rather than having to worry about getting the next question up and things like that. So again, what's your fit? What works for you right now? So I'd love to connect on Twitter. Love to have you jump into Sammy's chat. Andrew talked about some of the other things that we've done. And Andrew, that is really all I have.
Awesome,
That's all
Larry.
I do want to put that link to the book in the chat. So let me do that. How to write your dissertation.
Christina already did it, Larry.
Oh, Christine, of course you did.
Yeah. And Larry, a lot of comments about the hitting singles. And before we continue, let's pause and you guys could unmute or go to the chat. Any specific questions about Larry? We are going to do some giveaways at the end, and Larry's going to give out a couple of his books. But any specific questions for Larry? Go ahead, Dana.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I'm on a little bit of a different trajectory because I actually have a long-standing history of writing. I'm a retired academic who re-entered the K-12 space, so I'm in this like weird place. But I just wanted to add to your conversation. I actually use this book, which there's a new edition called How to Write a Lot. It's really geared toward academic writing, but honestly, the principles are behavioral and they could help someone here. So I just wanted to add that. I didn't feel that I could say that without, add to the chat without saying that first, if that's okay with everyone.
Thank you. Oh gosh, yes, Dana, please. I mean, this is what it's all about right here. People sharing ideas. I will say that book, probably similar to the How to Write Your Dissertation in 15 Minutes, was a complete paradigm shift for me.
Yeah.
It is similar. I was finishing up the Habits book, and I think I took a picture of the Google Doc I was working in and tweeted it out. I had someone, a principal in my region, text me and say, like, so you just write it in a Google Doc? Like, I thought you needed like special software. So I think there's just a lot of like, the mountain isn't as big as it may seem. Now, listen, if you're going to write a multi-method dissertation that is analyzing the history of education for 400 years, then that's going to take you some time. But I think finding projects that you're passionate about, that you would enjoy writing about, and then the I would call it the demystification of the process. I think that book sounds a lot like the book that I referenced as well. But when my former superintendent gave me that book, because I remember saying to her, like, I don't, being a first-time building principal and finishing this up, like, I don't know if I'm going to finish. She said, no, you will. This will help you. And so it really was a complete paradigm shift for me to how to get it done, because I was thinking of home runs. Like, people that finish their dissertations and write books must be these geniuses that they can do it all. And it's not the case at all. It's not even close, because if it was, I wouldn't be doing it. Trust me. So, I think those kinds of books can be really helpful because it does demystify the process. Like Andrew using his talk to text. Perfect. Right? Yeah. So thank you, Dana, for sharing that.
And thank you. I really appreciate it.
I do want to share, again, Larry talking about the demystification, right? My style, what worked for me. Guys, as simply as that Google Doc, how do I sort it? How do I put the chapters in order? How do I do it? I literally printed the paper copies out of the book. I printed them out. You put them one sheet at a time. I learned from my first book, which I didn't do that. I was literally cutting and taping them together so they stay together. But I sat in a hotel room and I just kind of sorted them. I said, which ones go in similar piles? Which ones kind of go together? And then I got chapter titles from that. I didn't have the chapter titles until I had the book. My process, my style. Larry, myself, Kevin, and Jeff Evner from the Finger Lakes region, we had never met, all four of us. We printed them together. We each brought our excerpts that we wrote, and we sat around a coffee shop and said, this one's about this. That can fit there. And we sat around, and then we had the book ordered, all in order from that process. So a Google Doc, and then sorting it from there is something that worked for us. If you're writing a story, obviously that is a different process. But I did want to make sure we shared that. Any other questions for Larry before we start talking about publishing versus self-publishing? All right. Well, he's staying on with us. Larry, why don't you put your email in the chat? And guys, I didn't want to send emails without people knowing each other and your emails. If you want to share your email to the group so people could reach out to you, people could, you can do that. I didn't want to share your email without your permission, so I BCC'd the emails. But you can do that. This is a way to connect with others. Here's a couple quick questions. Joe from Missouri says, well, how do I know when I have enough material? Jove, it's like a nice meal, right? Sometimes you go to those fancy restaurants and they only put a little piece of thing on there, versus the buffet where you're like, oh my God, you know when you have enough material, when you know you have enough material. It feels right. It looks right. I mean, Jove, look at the size of the books. I'm not a word count guy. I got to have this. I went with, the excerpts. I say about a page and a half are my excerpts. I got ADD, a short read. That's my style. But when you have enough is when it's like a nice meal. It's like a nice vacation, Jove. You're at 4 or 5 days. You start going 2 weeks, 3 weeks on vacation, you're out of whack. Amazon does not require a certain amount of words. Your book is what it is. Larry, if you wouldn't mind looking at our document for dads, leaders, and father figures and giving the word count, I feel like it's 10,000. I really have no idea.
I'll look that up and I can put it in the chat as well.
So, Jove, to answer your question is, when you have enough is when you have enough. There's some smaller books out there that people love. I just read Put Your Ass Where Your Heart Wants to Be. It was very thin. I read it in like a day, and it was awesome. Yeah, so Katie McNamara writes here, you want the book to have a spine. You don't want it to be a pamphlet. You want it to have some meat, and it's, small plates, Joe, versus a meal. You going for small plates or you going for a meal? Yeah, Terry, we can do that if people put it in there. We can send an email. I'm going to send an email with the link, and we can sort the emails also. Gerardo writes, how do I pick the right topic out of the many I have in my mind? I told the story, Gerardo, about Dr. Rob telling me you got to write the book. I didn't have a topic. I didn't have, I just wrote down the things I was doing as a principal. And then, wow, look at creative me. Look at the title of the book was called The Principal, Surviving and Thriving. But that surviving and thriving mindset kind of was built around those images in the logo, as well as all of that. If you start writing, Gerardo, about these different topics, then you pick the ones that resonate the most with you. I just did this seminar here and I asked the questions, which points resonated with you? And I can tell which points people liked. When my blogs go out, I can see how many reads they got or how many forwards they got. I could see which points resonate with people. And you pick what you're passionate about, Gerardo.
Right.
You pick what you're passionate about. Terry Wurzbacher is on here. Terry just wrote a book about her extreme runs, her extreme marathons. It's not about the miles. She's passionate about the extreme running. And Dr. Rob has spoken about her. My wife and I just ordered the book. Terry's been on my podcast. You write what you're passionate about, Gerardo. And the last one I'll do now, and then we'll go to publishing versus self-publishing. Dana from Long Island wrote, how do you promote and market a book so it lives beyond you? Dana, again, I was fortunate enough, I got to spend some time with Todd Whitaker, who wrote 50 books. And he said, Andrew, don't become a book salesperson, right? You want to help other people. You want to provide inspiration to other people. Terry didn't write that book to make money. Terry wrote that book to help other people. Dr. Rob doesn't do the Success Hotline to make money. He helps other people. And look at all the connections we made from that. Look how Dr. Rob helped me. Is there money to be made along the way? Sure. Presentations. My books, guys, some months I make good money on Amazon. Some months it's under $100, but it fluctuates depending on what's happening. I don't put out a lot of stuff like, hey, buy my book, but I will put out a quote from the book that I hope inspires people. Is that going to prompt them to write, to buy the book? Maybe, but the goal is to help other people, not to make money or be a salesperson. If you're here to make money, you're up the wrong, you're going down the wrong road. It is a legacy, right? That you're an author, your book is out there forever. And that's it. But Dana, I would read the book, my first 1,000 copies, because in that book, they talk about authentic followers. I would say I have some authentic friends here, right? Jove and I met in Missouri. I'm going to Kevin Estez's school in February to present down there. Kevin seen me present a few times. Kenny and I worked on an online seminar together. Michelle and I have crossed paths. So these are authentic friends who have connections. Are they saying, hey, you should hire Andrew Marotta? Yeah, probably. But the goal is that I've inspired them is the goal. So, all right, we will break again to do some more Q&A. Here's some information, guys, about publishing on your own or going with a publisher. These are my opinions and my opinions only. Again, as I said in the beginning, there's no perfect way. There's no one magic way that works. I've done both of them, and I'll talk a little bit about the process now. It really has changed. The game has changed, and I'll talk about that once this thing will eventually load. And which way should I go, right? What works for you? I'll start with self-publishing. I took a Google Doc to a book on Amazon to books in my hand. And I used this company. Those numbers might look off the page like, oh my God. But yeah, the first book I think was in the 7,000, 66,000 to 7,000. And you're like, oh my God, how do I afford that? How do I do that? There are cheaper ways to do it. I'm going to talk about ways to do it on your own. But my opinion, my way, you got to spend money to make money. You got to spend money. I didn't want to put my time and effort into formatting the book, editing the book. How do you do it? Terry, you wrote in there, how do you edit it? I didn't. I hired an editor, and I also 1106 designed it. If you want to have a cup of coffee with Michelle virtually, she'll do that. And you could reference Andrew Marotta. Her and I, full disclosure, if you sign with her, she gives a kickback to my next book. Like, so we have a business relationship. But that's who I went with. So I literally sent them the Google Doc, and after a lot of Q&A and surveys and all that stuff, they put your book on Amazon. And then you can order it where you have a book in hand. They help format the cover. They did all this stuff. All the stuff on the back. They help you get these ISBN numbers, all that stuff. And the most important thing they did, they held my hand because I had no idea what I was doing. And so that's a company I chose with. I interviewed probably 5 companies. I liked Michelle. She's from Brooklyn, Dana. She's out in Arizona now, and I enjoyed the process. But I took an unedited Google Doc and sent it to them, and now Larry and I probably, it was about $8,000. There's some other things that you can add, and there's things to make it cheaper too. But I didn't want to spend my time formatting and editing. What am I spending my time? I'm spending my time on the creative process. I'm writing. Christine helps me. She does all the stuff that I don't want to spend time doing. I want to be part of the creative process. Guys, if you self-publish, you're on your own, right? You're on your own. How do you get the word out? How do you do it? I would recommend that book again, my first 1,000 copies, but looking to help other people. I didn't charge you today because I wanted to help you, but I'm also helping build connections, build relationships, build, to use Larry's word, community. Dr. Rob doesn't charge on Success Hotline. He's looking to do it. You need a platform to help get your book out there. You can buy your books for about $4 a copy on Amazon. You have an author's page you can buy. Dr. Rob asked the question, well, Andrew, how do you get speaking gigs around the country? I mail a lot of my books out to conferences, to places. Kevin Estes is on here. Kevin's a CFO in Kentucky. Kevin saw me present at the Kentucky Principals Association this summer. We connected, we hit it off. We went to a baseball game, we had a beer, and now I'm going to Kevin's school district because my message resonated with him, and I'm looking to inspire people at his school district. And it was as simple as that, and that's an authentic relationship. Kevin wants to write a book. Kevin's a family man, and him and I connected. Kevin was also on my podcast, connecting here. So, Dr. Rob, to answer your question, the book is like a live, living business card that people can read and hold in their hand and say, wow, I'd like to hire this guy. If you're a tech person and you want to do it all on your own for not $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, you can, but you're doing all of that work on your own. And I didn't want a lot of mistakes in my book. Terry, you asked about editing. I'm not an editor, right? Christine and my other assistant help clean all my stuff up. I have people that do it. I'm not an editor. So, but if you want to do it your own and not spend thousands of dollars, you got to be a tech whiz and you're on your own. My focus was on the content. All right, publishers. My personal opinion, and here are the 2 books that I gave to publishers. The Principal was re-released with new excerpts to be called The School Leader. I went with EduMatch Publishing for the partnership. They need you more than you need them. My own personal opinion, I felt like I was giving my child up for adoption, right? I wrote this book, my personal story, and then here, I'm giving you the rights. You literally sign the rights over to them. I didn't like the feeling. I didn't like someone else packing my parachute with somebody I didn't know. I don't know. I don't know. I would rather pack my own parachute. I have my podcast and speak in different venues. If you don't have a platform to get the word about your book out there, maybe publishing is the way you should go. Who wants to unmute and fill in that last blank about publishers?
Money.
There you go. They want to make money, right? If your book sells for $20, you're getting $2 a book. You're getting 10 to 15% of the price. And if the book sells on Amazon, Amazon gets half. So if the book sells on Amazon for $20, Amazon gets 10, and now a publisher, you're getting 10%. So you're getting $1 a book. I just didn't, I just didn't think, I don't know. I didn't like it. Dave Burgess, who is a book publisher now, he did different, but he writes the story about he felt like he was getting robbed reading these contracts. Like, what? And who's going to push your book harder than you? EduMatch gives you 50%. And if you want to write these names down, well, it's actually coming up here. Christine, you can put them in the chat because there's a lot more author-friendly publishers out there than these big publishing companies. My family and I went to see the Christmas tree this year, and we walked by Simon and Schuster. They're not publishing Andrew Marotta's book. Can they get the book internationally out there and all of that? Yeah. Are they going to do that for you? I don't know. Larry talked about this. What's your why? It's your thing. You want to go with a big publisher, one of those big publishing things, you're a little tick on their thing. You have to buy your own book. Imagine that, right? I'm buying these books on Amazon for $4, $3.50 each, and I have a closet full. You come to my house, I'm having a birthday party dinner for my wife next week. There's 2 guys coming, their husbands, right, of her friends. I'm giving them the dad's book because I have it. I didn't have to buy it from the publisher at full price. I just didn't like it. Rick Jetter's a friend of mine. Rick Jetter runs Pushing Boundaries. It's a consulting company. It's but Rick he also publishes book now at a much more friendly rate than 10%. He also did these cool books here, this 100 series. Larry and I both participated. And he brought 100 authors together. And that was a nice, cool thing he's doing. And he owns the rights to those. But Christine, if you want to put these in the chat, Jimmy Casas is now publishing books under his label. I just met Darren Papard. Larry was on his podcast. Darren is publishing those. Dave Burgess is a big education book publisher. These are all people that you can reach out to. There's a lot of education-friendly book publishers out there that are giving authors 50%. It's the Dave Burgess model, and you're not paying anything. You're signing over the rights to your book. Another avenue of getting your book out there is Audible. I hired Steve Berner from Steve Berner Voiceovers. He's a guy in Fishkill, New York. He's got a small studio down in his basement. I read 3 of my books there. He read this one. I paid him a little over $1,000. It's on Audible. I read the other books. Here they are, right? I read the other books. I went to his place. I paid him, a little over $1,000. Audible sells a lot of books. They're on Amazon about $10, and you make about $4 a book for those. It's another avenue. It's a lot of work. You're basically reading the book all day. He edits it. He cleans it. He uploads it to Audible, but you have the rights to it, and you get the profits. So again, sometimes on Audible, I'll get a check for $50 a month. Sometimes you get a check for several $100. Depends on what's happening. But just ways that I do that there. Guys, I'm going to stop sharing at this time, and we're at 10:46 a.m. East Coast time. Let's chat now. I gave a lot of stuff. Yeah, Code Breakers is another one, Katie. I don't know their rate. Generally, these smaller educational companies are about 50%. But again, on Amazon, if your book is $20, Amazon gets 10. So the book publisher is getting 5. So you're getting $5 a book. Questions about publishers versus self-publishing. And again, that company was called 1106 Design. I like Michelle. Michelle and I have become friends. I chose her and she chose me, and we've been working together. So thoughts on self-publishing versus doing it with a publisher. Go ahead, Dana.
Thank you. So my question is really the same question. And the reason why is because I'm really not excited about marketing.
Yeah.
It's just, I feel like it's inauthentic. That's why I'm looking forward to reading that book that you referred me to. So thank you. My first 1,000 copies. But do they market? Because I don't see a benefit in using a publisher. I've spoken to a few different publishers and they said they don't market, but I don't know if that's broad strokes and it just happens to be the two that I spoke to. That it's still the author's responsibility to market. So I don't know where the benefit is, I guess.
And so I put on one of the slides, Dana, it's a good question. It's like a blind date. You might go on 3 blind dates and say, man, I didn't like that guy, or I didn't like that girl. You don't really know. You're signing with them, but then once you sign the paper, they got the rights to your book.
Right.
So you're kind of stuck. And again, not that they're trying to steal from you or rob you or whatever. I felt like I was handing this over to a stranger. You're not going on these book tours, and they're not setting book signings up for you. You're giving them the rights. You're basically not spending $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 to get the book in your hand. They're doing that for you, and some market more than others. Some are big on social media. I know with EduMatch, when I write about these, I tag them and they do retweet my things. And they've also done it on their own and I retweet it. So it's a little bit of both. But those are questions you have to ask the publisher. What are you going to do for me? This is my book. What are you going to do for me? You have a lot of options to buy a car. What's the dealership going to do for you? They need you more than you need them. But are they going to get your book on the New York Times bestseller list? Are they going to promote it? Dr. Rob, he signed his book with the company that did Chicken Soup for the Soul. He was in touch with them. Dr. Rob, you want to talk a little bit about that and your experience? You're muted, Doc. Sorry if you're trying to talk. There you go.
I was all excited when they contacted me. They saw a pre-copy of my book, and I'm all excited because Chicken Soup for the Soul is like the biggest thing going. And so their PR department gets in touch with me, and they sent me like this 40-page thing to fill out. They want my schedule 3 years in advance, and they want to know everything because they're going to get me on radio, they're getting on TV. They never got me one interview. They never got me one thing in the press. It was so disappointing. So basically, I think what they see, it's like throwing spaghetti against the wall. I think these big publishers put out a lot of books. And then if your book starts selling, I think they'll put marketing money behind it. But unless they give you a huge advance, they're not going to help you market your book.
And all the people on this community help. Dr. Rob has helped me in exorbitant ways, even just promoting this. He's helped Terry promote the book because he's an authentic friend. There's a relationship. He's looking to help other people. Terry's book is freaking inspiring. Is a book company going to promote it, or are authentic followers? I had Terry on my podcast. Did she sell one book because somebody saw the podcast, or 100? Terry doesn't know, and I don't know. But Dr. Rob said it. It's more than spaghetti sauce on the wall, but some of it's going to stick. Dr. Rob has been on my podcast. People doing this is connecting. Larry was just on Darren Papard's podcast. I don't know if you could find it, Christine. Larry's company is called Road to Awesome. I mean, Darren's. Darren put out there his most downloaded episode of 2022 was Larry Dake's episode. He put it out there on Twitter. And did that sell books for Larry? He doesn't know, but it brought attention to Larry, and he went on the podcast for free. So it's authentic connections with other people that help I didn't like the feeling of handing my personal book of my personal story to a publisher. I just, again, it felt like I was giving my child up for adoption. And I just didn't like the feeling. I didn't like how it felt. And there's no perfect thing. There's no magic recipe. You may love it. Hey, take my book. Here it is. I wrote a book, and now it's out there. And I was published. People don't care, which book was by a publisher or not. Did they like the book? Did it inspire them? Those are the important things. What else, guys? What are some other questions that you have? Mark, I know, not Mark, Moskowitz. Is it Mark Moskowitz is on here? I don't know if he's still on here. Mark, I know you're writing a book. You have the title. Do you want to talk a little bit about that if he's still here? I don't see his screen. He might be.
Yeah, he's been in and out. I think his connection is a little funky.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, he's got a book out there, and I just Googled it, and I looked. It looks like he's raising funds to produce the book, So I have a few more points here. And then, guys, once I stop hitting record, we will go overtime for anybody that wants to stay on. Yeah, Gene, certainly co-authoring the book, and Larry can talk about that. I'm actually co-authoring a second one right now. It's called HATS, Heartfelt Acts for Teachers and Students. And I got the title from my friend Jay Billy in New Jersey. Jay wears a different hat every day when the kids are coming into school. But co-authoring, you're splitting the cost with somebody. You're also sharing getting the word out. I chose these 4 guys, or 3 other guys. Kevin was my college roommate, and Jeff and Larry were educators in New York that I felt a connection with. I was inspired by the book She Leads by a friend of mine out in Colorado. Miley Tolan and Rachel George wrote She Leads. And I was like, wow, I had Rachel on the podcast. I got to meet Rachel. And I said, I want to do a book about dads, right? It's a struggle to be a dad. If you just watch the new Avatar movie out, a lot of it is about the struggle of being a dad. Kevin Estes is a parent on here. Kevin talked about the struggle of time, being home and being, there. It's a challenge. Gene, we had a few virtual meetings. No one had to leave their house. We kind of talked about the writing process, writing in a similar format, not style, format. We spoke about creating cool chapter titles that get your attention, using stories. And then we probably had 3 or 4 meetings throughout, but we set deadlines. The guys put their excerpts in there. And then we set a date to get together. Kevin flew to Syracuse. We had a wonderful Airbnb that we stayed at, right, Larry? And it was actually, we had a rough go. We actually had to leave the place, which we...
I will say, what you should be auctioning off rather than books is a one-day experience with Andrew Murata. You just follow him around for a day. That's valuable.
We had a good time. Yeah. But we got together, we sorted the book, Gene, and then we electronically sorted the book. And then before you submit it to the company, it should be as clean as possible. Gene, we wrote the documents on separate individual documents, and then we inputted them into the main document, because Grammarly, if you use Grammarly, if the document becomes too big, Grammarly gets a little clogged. We wrote each excerpt on a separate Google Doc, cleaned it with Grammarly, proofread it ourselves, Terry, and then we put it in the main doc. We printed it, we sorted it. And then we handed it over to Michelle, and it cost us, a couple $1,000 each. We paid them. We made a website from it. If you want to put it in there, Christine, it's dadsleadersandfatherfigures.com. We made a website that brings information to the book. We paid for that. And, it was cool, Gene, and it didn't feel as heavy as doing it all on my own. Mark, go ahead.
Yes, well, JG and I are working on the book together. So rather than type this in, I thought I would just ask everybody. So like we have a podcast together. I know we've talked before that, your podcast could turn into chapters. And what we're doing is we're taking certain episodes and we're turning those into chapters in our book. Is it offside to refer to your podcast in your book?
I love the offside.
You're an official. You'll appreciate that. Well, no, sorry, that's a hockey reference. You haven't given me a hockey reference for today.
You know what, Mark? I'll go back to the quote from Todd Whitaker, who wrote 50 books. You don't want to be a book salesman, but you also have to ABC, always be closing, always be writing. It's a fine balance of getting the word out about these things versus, hey, look at me, look at me, look at me. At the end of this presentation, I'm going to have a slide that says, hey, I'd love to come keynote in your district. I'd love to come speak there. It's one slide. Is it going to turn some people off? Oh my God, he's selling himself. I hope not. Ryan's an AD. I mentioned to him that I'm going to be speaking at the AD's conference. I want to speak at AD conferences around the country, promoting the book, Tales from the Hardwood, because I was a Division I official. I'm proud that I was a Division I official for almost 20 years. And there's some value there. I think if you do it in a authentic, what's the word I'm thinking of? Just not too much, just enough. Larry does the Sanies chat. He's not on there saying, look at my book, look at my book. But it brings attention to Larry. So to answer your question, I don't think so. We wrote in here, hey, check out Dads, Leaders, and Father Figures. And at the end of my thing, I say, hey, check out my podcast. Not by saying, look at me, but saying, hey, can it help other people? To go back to Dana's question, how can you enrich the lives of the people around you? Again, Terry Wurzbacher's on here. Terry wrote a book about her experiences. She's going to make a couple bucks, but she's also enriching the lives of the people around her. I think it's a fine balance, Mark. Yeah. Michael Miller. I played in bands in high school. Other people don't post flyers for your shows. You got to get it out there, but maybe Michael puts out a little clip of his music. What scratches people's attention? There's a lot of things, Yeah. So, and even
Andrew, if I could just interject there. I mean, the one thing that I typically don't do is ask students in the courses that I teach to buy my book. I think that they're already putting out thousands of dollars to get their admin degree. And it's not necessarily relevant to the particular course I teach, which is supervision and evaluation. But, I was pretty straightforward with Sanies when I said, hey, I'd like to do the chat. They don't pay me anything. You're going to get your word out there, and I'm going to get myself out there more too. So it's kind of a win-win that way. So I think if you can make it a win-win, then yeah.
I think for us, we've started writing some of the chapters, and some of the stories that have come up in episodes of our podcast come up in the book. So that's why I said this kind of like a crossover. So that's why I was kind of saying, on our podcast, we interviewed Dr. Rob Gilbert, and he mentioned this, this, and this. So to me, that's why it's just not saying heavily relying on it, but you're going to touch on certain things that will overlap, and that's okay to do.
That's okay to do for sure. And it's a win-win. It's community. It's connecting.
And I was just wanted to chime in that if it's a part of the storytelling, it's going to be authentic and it's not going to come off like you're a used car salesman. So as long as it's, in that story, I think you would be fine referencing it.
Jay asked a good question. How long does it take to make the money back? Jay, when I first wrote that first book, The Principle, my wife saw the price tag, whatever it was, 65, 7,000. What? And I said to her, I'm going to make the money back. I promise you. If I was just selling books, Jay, think about it, on Amazon, right? If the book sells for $20, you're getting 10, you're getting 9 and change. So how many books you got to sell? Again, you don't want to be a book salesperson, but do you do some free online things? Do you do some seminars? Do you do something at your local library? My book sells at the Bagel Store in Milford, PA. My book sells at a couple of local shops. I bring them to libraries. I bring them to places. All these little things help. But if you're just selling books on Amazon, you do the math. $9 a book, $10 a book. It's the speaking engagements, Jay, that produce some more money. But even getting to a conference, you go speak at a conference that they don't pay you. You're a breakout session, but you have your books in the back of the room. You bring your kid, and people are buying them on the way out. Now, if you're selling books in person, your book is $20. You can buy it from Amazon for $3.50, $4 a copy. So now you're making $16 a book that you're selling in person. And whenever I go to a conference, you always offer them a little deal. Buy one, get one free. Buy one and, whatever. Or they're 25% off. So now they're only $15. It costs you $4. You're still making $11 a book. But they're walking away with the book in the hand. And if they like the book, Jay, what are they going to do? They're going to talk about it. They're going to post it on social media. They're going to reference it. Hey, they're at a dinner party. I just read this great book. It's called Not About the Miles. This crazy lady who's a Yankees fan walked all these crazy things through Tennessee. She's nuts. But the book was awesome. That's what happens. All right. We're at 11 o'clock now. I have a couple more slides. Then I'm going to stop recording. I'll dismiss you. And if you want to stay on for overtime, we can do that. Couple more slides here, and then we'll get you out of here to go enjoy your last holiday before we're back to the work week, unless you go to school in Kentucky like Kevin Estes. All right. Sorry, this takes so long. I don't know if it's the number of people on the Google Meet or the number of people on the thing, but that takes a long time. I apologize. So I gave you a lot of stuff. We just unmuted. We just chatted. You can't do it all today, guys. I hope you took a lot of notes. Christine and I will send an email out with the emails and some other things there. You can't do it all today. I mentioned this about you got to keep rolling. You got to keep writing. You got to keep trying these things. You got to go on podcasts. You got to write blogs. You want to write your stuff and get it out there. Mark and Gene, you want to send me some stuff? Let's do it. Let's help each other. Let's promote each other's work. Go on Twitter and promote each other. You want to do a deeper thing. I do some coaching, right? Dr. Rob does some professional coaching. Reach out to me. There's a charge, but I won't break the bank with you. But we can look to help one another. Full disclosure, Dr. Rob's friend, Frank Soma, I joined a business mastermind with him. Cost me some money, but he helped me learn how to kind of businessify, entrepreneurialize a little bit of what I was doing. But I'd be happy to discuss that with you. Christine and I were going to do some giveaways right now. I have smart reusable notebooks. I'm going to give away a coaching session, which I think I had done with Gene in the past, or you can pick any of my books and I'll send them to you. Christine, I am going to do, 4 of these, and Larry's going to give away 2 of his books. So you can pick one of Larry's books or 4 winners. You could pick any one of these things. Rocketbook is a reusable notebook. You could pick a coaching session with me or a free book. Christine, I'll stop sharing. if you could do the wheel of names now, Christine, and get that up, and we'll do some giveaways. I know some people left, but they got to be in it to win it. So they got to be in it to win it. You guys just make sure we get your address or what it is that you want.
All right, here we go.
Nice job with the wheel. I like the AM logo in there, Christine.
I always gotcha.
All right, Jonah. Is Jonah still here? You got to be on it to win. Jonah, you still here? No.
No.
Yeah.
All right. Remove.
1, 2.
Oh, I'll add you, Katie.
Here's Michael. Michael's on here. He's in a band. Yeah,
All right,
Michael.
I am very interested in your books, School Leader, Surviving and Thriving.
Michael, make sure we get your address in the chat. Michael Miller.
Not it now.
School leader. All right, let's go.
Did it update? Yes, it did. Here we go.
Joe from Missouri. He was first on the link today. Go ahead, Jove. What is it? You can pick a book, a rocket book, a coaching session, or one of Larry's books. You got to unmute, Joe.
I 1 hour coaching session, my man, would be outstanding.
You're in.
Thank you.
And we're going to talk about getting you on the podcast also. 850. So you stay on, Jove, and we'll pick times for both of those.
All right, awesome.
Elise is on there. A good friend of Dr. Rob's. Elise, what would you like?
Really? Oh my God.
You won.
I guess, excuse me, the leaders, Dad's leaders.
You got it. We'll get it in the mail to you. Signed, Lise. And
Thank
one
you.
more for me, and then we'll give away 2 of Larry's books. Lise, make sure you put your address in the chat, please.
Yeah.
Dr. Rob, he's getting the book anyway. You're getting the book anyway, Doc. So you want one of Larry's books, Dr. Rob?
Is the trip to the Super Bowl, is that for one person or 2?
I'll get you a trip to Miramar Beach, Florida that you keep dodging me on.
Was that Mar-a-Lago Beach?
Miramar Beach.
Oh, Miramar. Okay.
Yeah. 2 more.
All right.
We got 2 of Larry's books. So whoever wins next gets they can pick one of Larry's books.
All right, Mary Kay. We had
Mary Kay.
crisis management or small habits.
How about small habits?
You got it.
Thanks,
All right,
Mary Kay.
just
Last
put
one.
your address in the chat or email it to us. Last one. And the last one goes to Michelle.
And Michelle,
Winner, winner, what do I win?
you can pick one of Larry's books, Michelle.
Okay, I have 2 of them. I have crisis management and I have small habits. What's another one?
can
Do you have
send
another
the-
one?
you can
Ooh,
send-
So
Dad
Larry, you
one,
got to
maybe.
send
You can
her.
send the dad's book.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that'd
let's
be
do
cool.
that one. Thank you, guys.
Yep. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. I have a couple more slides if you want to pull that out, and then I'll hit stop. And then if anybody wants to stay on overtime, we'll do that for you and connect. All right. As I said here, right, this is about connections. You know, and Mark and a lot of you asked about promoting, right? I don't want to be on here, be a salesperson, but one of the things Dr. Rod said, how do you speak around the country? I speak around the country by meeting you, connecting with you, and I'd love to come to your organization. You know, I enjoy the speaking. And Jay, you asked about the books, right? The books are kind of the business card to the speaking engagements. I've keynoted a number of conferences. I work with leadership groups, athletic director groups, administrative groups. So if you are interested, reach out to me, and I'd love to come. We work out the dates, we work out the pricing, and I love it. It's a lot of fun. You want to come on the podcast? Reach out to me. You want to write a blog? Reach out to me. We'll make both of those happen, and I'd love to connect with you. And the last thing we're going to do, okay? If you see me present, you know what I'm going to do here. I got this from Frank Soma. Dr. Rob was nice enough to gift me a session with Frank Soma. And here it is, right? I want you, you don't have to unmute here, but in your home right now, wherever you are, I want you to help me put this candle out. We're going to shout it out. Ready? Out, 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 out. Out, right? It's not going out there, right? So now let's think it out together, right? We're going to think about putting the candle out together, okay? So I want you to close your eyes and we're going to count to 3. We're going to think it out. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Out, out, out. 3, 2, 1. It's still here, Jay. Michelle, it's still here. Lise, Kevin, Terry, Chase, it's still here. Lisa's on here 3 times. You can't talk about what you're going to do. You can't think about what you're going to do. You have to take action on what you want to do. You want to write that book, you just have to start writing it. You want to do these things, you just have to start. It all started from the Power of a Single Experience by my good friend, Dr. Rob. And here I am doing these things. And that was it. So we are going to hit stop record here. I hope you found this session helpful. If you were watching this on record from my website, thank you so much for tuning in. And I'll hit stop here.